Long gone are the days of waiting to be seen in a doctor's office only to have that awkward conversation with your healthcare provider. Wisp gives you access to sexual and reproductive healthcare from the comfort of your home. Get treatment for BV, yeast infections, UTIs, and much more delivered directly to your home or ready for pickup at your local pharmacy in less than 3 hours. The best part? Wisp is discreet, convenient, and you don't need medical insurance to receive care or prescription medication. Visit us today at hellowisp.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This cold and flu season, Instacart is here to help deliver all of your sick day essentials. Whether you're in prevention mode and need vitamins, hand sanitizer, and that lemon tea your Nana swears by, or you're in healing mode and need medicine, soup, and a lot more tissues. Simply download the Instacart app and get sick day supplies that reinvigorate or relieve, delivered in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 orders. Excludes restaurant orders, service fees, and terms apply.
I'm sorry. It's just y'all are talking about dancing like it's rocket science or something.
It's just for a couple of weeks, until Andrew gets better.
Yeah.
This would be your risk, Nora. It's your senior piece.
I know.
Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of Hollywood Gold. I'm your host, Daniela Taplin Lundberg, and I'm here with Vanessa Mendel. Vanessa, how are you?
Doing good. Very excited for our episode today.
So excited for today's episode. We're about to launch into one of the most successful dance franchises. I don't know how many dance franchises there are.
There's a few of them.
Anyways, we're getting into Step Up, which is, guys, if you haven't seen it in a while, just do yourself a favor and go check out Channing Tatum as a young dancer and young star, and just like so wonderful to watch the early days of his career. And we're about to interview Eric Feig, who really was the sort of godfather of the entire franchise and came up with the notion of it on his living room couch while watching Footloose with his wife. So I'm so excited to get underway on this. Let's go.
Let's do this.
Eric Feig. I rewatched Step Up last night. Just an epically good movie.
I have a tiny little cameo.
Wait, where? Tell me.
Art teacher, when Channing first walks into the school and he's like walking down the hall, kind of like, what the hell is this? And he's looking around and he's seeing like 2 people with violin and doing this, doing that. And he sees an art class and I'm teaching the art class.
I'm going to go back and rewatch. I rented it on Amazon, so I'm just going to, I have it for 48 more hours. So I'm just going to go back and look at that.
You know, buy it. Why not? Money back guarantee. I think a penny of it rolls to me. So,
well, I feel like, Eric, we have to go. But I mean, I want to do like at some point a deep dive into your whole career, because I feel like you created like a lot of like significant franchises to a lot of people in this world, particularly young women that, you know, were sort of growing up, you know, a few years before me. I feel like you should be credited with Twilight. You should be credited with Step Up and that whole franchise. But today we're going to focus on Step Up, which launched just a global sensation. And I want you know the drill. We're going to go back to your first memory of this and how it started and what the seed of the idea was and how it came to be. And I have so many questions. And the movie just like filled me with such joy to rewatch it because it really holds up and the dancing is so incredible. And Anne Fletcher is such a iconic filmmaker and choreographer. So tell me, my friend, what is your first memory?
Okay, actually, I'll tell you exactly how I know its origin.
Okay.
I started working at Summit Entertainment January 2001. I was there for 2 years. You know, I had a 2-year deal. And at the end of 2003, Neil Moritz, who I got to know really well from, I know you did last summer, was saying to me, come and work with me and I'll give you a small partnership stake in whatever we're doing. Whatever you're working on, I'll split our fees. You get 1/3, I'll keep 2/3, of the stuff that we're working on.
Cool.
And, maybe I'll do that. So I went to Summit and I said, you know what, this has been great, but I think I want to move on. I'm going to go, he's a real, he has a big production company and, and is what it is. And here he's offering a really kind of lucrative split. I think I'll do that. And they're like, no, we like you. We, want you to stay here. We're just building something new. Trust us. It's gonna be amazing. And I was like, well, but it's a pretty good structure that he has, and I get to keep, 1/3. And it's okay. We'll do another thing. We'll change your compensation structure for the things that we work on that we finance or that you produce. You can also keep 1/3, and then we'll keep 2/3. We'll do it that way. I was like, all right. So I made a new deal that was in 2003. Okay. So maybe 2004 by the time it kind of happened, right? We went through. And at that point, I remember very much in my head thinking, now having gone to know kind of Patrick, international sales, and our company was driven, what is a low cost, high concept movie idea that's potentially franchisable that Patrick can sell off pitch alone, that our international buyers would go for, that won't have any gross participants, that could have ancillary revenue. Let me see if I can try and find that kind of thing. That is high concept that Patrick can pitch it just off its concept to our international distributors. That could be a potential franchise that isn't expensive because now I get 1/3 of the profits, right? And that actually can be a meaningful kind of thing that has little kind of tendrils of other additional revenue. It's kind of originally how I was thinking about it.
Okay.
So that sounds like a very uncreative way to start as an origin. But that really, honestly, I was sitting there. Our first daughter, who is now 20 years old, had just been born. We were sitting on the couch and we just put her down for a nap or whatever. We're kind of flipping around on TV, whatever. And somehow or other ended up on the original Footloose, with Kevin Bacon, right? And it was in the middle of the movie, and we started watching for a little bit. And my wife was like, "Oh my God, I still cannot get enough of this movie. I've seen it a gazillion times. And if it's on, I'm gonna watch it." And so we're watching it. And Save the Last Dance had been a movie that had just come out and had done really well. Julia Stiles, right? That's a big hit, right? I remember literally sitting on the couch. I was like, "Oh my God, I got it. If we do a dance movie from the point of view of a guy instead of just from the point of view of a woman, all of a sudden your movie becomes a kind of a couples movie instead of just a quote unquote chick flick, And I was like, that's the movie. I said, that's a movie that can work actually. That totally makes sense. In fact, I don't think there have been a ton of those. I mean, these things kind of work every so often. Interesting. So I grew up in Westport, Connecticut. Westport bought a country club. And if you live in Westport and you kind of pay local taxes, you can go to the country club for free. It's called Longshore, and it's a really beautiful club. And it's, the local club or whatever, right? And everyone's a member if you live in Westport. So in high school, when you're living in the suburbs, you just basically are looking for where can we go to drink and hang out and, do whatever the fuck you're doing, right? And so we used to hang out at Longshore. We would sneak in and we would, bring beer or weed, whatever. We have little kind of quasi parties. So as we were wandering around, there was not a shed, there was a little mini kind of house, right? And we were kind of playing around the doors and it was open. And when we walked in there, it's where they kept extra cases of paper towels and toilet paper and alcohol. Okay. And so we found a big case of rum and we were like, oh my God. So we, of course, opened it and we started drinking. We told other people, oh, come here, get into Longshore. There's a party. So we had a party, okay, at one of these extra places and kind of tried to keep it quiet. And everyone started drinking too much. And the party got out of hand. I mean, we weren't supposed to be there, obviously. We definitely weren't supposed to be drinking the alcohol. And the cops came and everyone scattered, okay. And some of us got arrested. And what happened is the judge said, you break it, you bought it. And community service hours were doled out. Okay. And I just remember that phrase. You break
no way.
So
it's all based on Westport lore, the legend of Step Up.
So, I'm sitting there on the couch with my wife watching Footloose. I'm thinking, oh my God, a dance movie from the point of view of a guy. And I was like, wait. What's interesting is that normally these things are always about like someone who's dying to go there. They want to do ballet more than anything, or they want to do tap more than anything.
Yeah.
What if you have the guy who says, what the fuck? I don't want to be here. Okay. So he would have that like sort of outsider chip on his shoulder thrust into an insular world. But let's face it, if you're there and you're around talented people who are doing amazing things, you kind of secretly want to be good at it too, right? You wish you were good at it, but you just maybe don't want to admit it. That's the way in. And the judge, you break it, you bought it. So I wrote up a treatment of, the Channing Tatum.
Shut up. Do you have story credit and I just didn't realize that?
No, I do not. And in fact, it was one of these things where I made a decision at the moment that I thought it would be really, really cheesy for me as a producer and a financier to take story credit on something that I wrote. And as time has gone by and I keep on thinking about all my like would-be residuals, I'm like, oh, I should have done it. But at the time, I had a very high moral standard back in those days, I thought it would be kind of lame and kind of cheesy. So I wrote up a treatment, basically I was like, and it was sort of like, this is the essential arc, which is a guy with his buddy, foster kid. I mean, you see in the movie, they break into the School of the Arts, whatever, right? Joe says you break your body, shows up, and It's pretty much that, right? So I had a treatment, and I was like, wait, I'm going to go to the guy who wrote Save the Last Dance and see if he wants to write it based on my treatment, because that's a good, like I'll say, from the writer of Save the Last Dance. A guy named Dwayne Adler reached out to him, and I said, here's my treatment. I'm not going to ask for story credit, okay? And this is what I want you to write, okay? And he wrote a first draft, and he's a wonderful, great guy. Draft was not what we had in mind. But I had a script, I had my treatment, and I had the script, right? And so then I was like, okay, now what am I going to do? We were working on Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and that was with Doug Lyman as a director. So I had a kind of like development or meeting or whatever it was, and I went to his office, Hypnotic, and he has a partner named Dave Bardis, and they actually produced Suits as well. And while we were in a meeting, all of a sudden they get a phone call from someone, and they're like, wait, I have to take it. They take the phone call in the middle of the meeting, and they're like, wow, that's great. They high-five each other. I said, what happened? And they said, we just got a pickup on our TV show that is one of the best pilots we've ever worked on, ever, that Doug directed, and it's called The OC. I said, oh my God, that's amazing. That's great. And they said, you got to see it. So they gave me a screener of The OC, and I watched it. I was like, I love it. Oh my God. I said, by the way, I'm working on a movie that is kind of in that same zone, right? And I need someone to like basically do a page one rewrite of this. Is there a writer? I said, obviously, you're going to be keeping all your writers that you have in the room. Is there a writer that you know of that you met during that process that could be interesting to like write what I'm talking about, who you didn't hire? And they said, yes, actually, there was someone really, really great. Her name was Melissa Roseberg. And actually, bizarrely, I think she used to be a dancer. So I said, can you put me in touch with her? Okay, so I met her and I said, hey, Melissa, I told you I heard all of it. I read a script of hers, but I really liked it. I said, do you have any interest in doing this? As it's really a page one rewrite, but I'll give you the script. So I gave her Dwayne Adler's script, and she's like, oh, no, I'm sorry, thank you, but no, thank you. I said, actually, will you read my treatment? And she said, okay, read my treatment. She said, okay, actually, I'll just start from your treatment. Okay, let's just do this as like, I'll do the treatment. So she signs on board. Okay, so she's at work. At that point, it was called Untitled Music High. Okay. Because actually it will come back in terms of that title. So we hire Melissa Roseberg to write it, and I'm waiting for the script. Then I am at the Equinox gym on Sunset in West Hollywood, like near La Cienega, that's still there. And it's early in the morning, I'm working out. And as I go to put my free weights away, it's so funny. I actually was just talking about this now. Sounds really weird. I go to put the free weights away, and at the rack, I see Adam Shankman. And Adam Shankman used to be a choreographer, became a director, and then had launched a production company with his sister, with Jennifer Gibcott. So I see him there, and I say, Adam, actually, it's kind of, and we're like, hey, early in the morning. I said, kind of serendipitous to bump into you. I said, I'm working on a movie right now that's just kind of like early stages right now. In fact, I'm waiting on the new script to come in. Like, basically, I really wanted to kind of feel authentic. And who would you say, who's like the new version of you? And he said, am I already the old version of me? And I said, I don't mean it that way. I just like, who's someone who like comes from the world of choreography, who could be a director, who could do what you're doing? You know what I'm talking about. And he said, Mama. And I said, Mama, who's Mama? And he said, Anne Fletcher. She actually is a much more talented choreographer than I am. She's amazing. She's the best person. I cannot say enough good things about her. She's my dearest friend. I absolutely love her. She should be a director. She needs to be a director. And if you meet her, I will work with her and I will prepare her and I will make her totally ready as a director. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I said,
like on the spot, he said that?
Kind of like that, right there, like at the freeway section of the Equinox. I said, great. Oh my God, wow. Can I get her phone number? Can I reach out to her? So I get her phone number. I reach out to her. I say, Adam told me all about you. I want to talk to you about this movie I'm working on. Can we meet? She came into my office and I told her, I said, here's what I'm thinking about. I don't have a script yet, but here's what I think it could be. Pitch it, go through my whole pitch to her. And she said, that's great. Who's the director? And I said, no, like you. And she said, I'm a choreographer. And she said, I work with directors. And I said, no. I'm meeting you as a director. Like, I think Adam thinks that you could be a director. And I said, I'm talking to you right now. You actually sound like a director. And she said, I'm not sure about that. And I said, no, you are a director. I'm telling you, Adam thinks you're a director. Everyone thinks you're a director. Like, this is a movie I want you to direct. Like, you really can do it. And I remember I said, how do I talk to you? Like, do you have a representative? Do you have an agent? And it was Andrew Canava. And I remember I called him and everyone thought that she was interviewing for a gig as a choreographer on a movie. And we're like, no, she's our director. We're hiring her. So we hired her. We then had Offspring, Adam and Jen come on as additional producers with us, right? And then Melissa delivered the script and it was great. Okay. So we all of a sudden had a great script. We had Anne on it. It was actually, and it's interesting, at the beginning, we really were less about dance and more about like fame. It was about the whole school. It was all about like all the arts that were going on there. It was dance, it was music, it was it was fame. It was really kind of like all the stuff that's happening at this kind of school.
Cool.
And Jen said, we have one of the best choreographers around in Anne Fletcher. I really think we should just like zero in and pick a lane and not have it be so much about everything that could be in the background, but really heavily featured dance. We're like, yes, let's do that, of course. And in fact, so many things, there were some things that happened by like design and plan. And like, usually like you plan a lot of stuff and they're like, oh my God, that didn't go according to plan. Yeah. And sometimes plans are like, wow, that went to plan. And then in this case, not only did things go according to plan, but it way exceeded our plans. And we had happy accidents galore on this, like just like, oh my God, like that worked out amazing, right? So the fact that, Melissa came in, I was like, wow, that was an amazing script. She also ultimately, through that relationship, she wrote all 5 Twilight movies, because of that relationship. So the fact that like I happened to be in Doug Liman's office when he got the call that OC got picked up, that Melissa was a runner-up of being in the room, because if she was in the room, she would have been available, right? The fact that I happened to run into Adam Shankman, at the gym at Equinox, like all that stuff, right? Yeah. So we're trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? We had a budget of $24 million. We were working with, the reason we said in Maryland is I wanted a city that actually had like an urban element to it, where it would have a performing arts school, where there was an upstairs, downstairs kind of element in terms of like class and income disparity, that would exist, right? And I didn't want it to be New York or Los Angeles, that it was so close to, if you're really, really amazing, you can actually just get a job in that commercial that's shooting on tomorrow, So I wanted to have a level of aspirational, like, we're going to be great here, but then we get to graduate and go somewhere else, right? I was like thinking, well, where can that be? My wife's college roommate and best friend is Julie Bowen, and the actress, and she and her sister Molly Lukemeyer are incredibly close to us, and they're from Baltimore. And one of their great party tricks, especially Molly, is she has an amazing Baltimore accent that she can do, at the drop of a hat or at the drop of a drink, and it's so funny and it's so good and so specific. And I literally had never been there. I was like, oh, Baltimore, that's a perfect city to study in. And then you realize that actually, and the School of Arts, Jada Pinkett went there, Tupac went there, which I didn't know at the time until we actually were like, oh my God, wow. So again, happy accident that we have like the lineage and all that, right?
You got me all figured out, Montel. Yeah, all right, I might be Montel, but you the one getting on Jerry Springer all the time.
Man, yo, check this out. You Montel, you Jerry Springer, and I'm like...
Jenny Jones. Nah, man, he's like Ellen.
Except Ellen get more chicks than he get.
Guys, is that our new janitor?
He's not a janitor. That's the guy who trashed the theater.
Really? Oof. I love a man in a uniform.
We're then figuring out what to do. I ran into Nina Jacobson at a Whole Foods, and she was running production at Disney. And I was like, oh my God, please, let me tell you about this movie. And we're looking for domestic. We need this. And I pitched my little heart out. And it was so clear that she was like, please get away from me. Please do not pitch me at the market while I'm trying to get groceries for my family, But I couldn't stop. And she's like, I'll take a look at it. We'll check it out. We'll see. We'll read it. And the champions of it were, ultimately Nina was an amazing supporter of it. Kristen Burr and Karen Glass were our production executives. And they're like, we love it. We like it. Okay. So they bought it for 50% for North America. We had the other thing. When we went forward to actually sell it, the great news is we thought, okay, we just have to try and get to $12 million, for international. As we were kind of gearing up for, okay, how are we going to put this movie together? Anne was like, hey, I'm a choreographer. I want to shoot things in wine. When you look at the best musicals of all time, you see people doing their own dance. Like we see them dance. Like it just psychologically, you see it. You don't want to have like the quick kind of, and sort of, the MTV cuts of the day, like cutting into a double. I want to show people who can dance. And we're like, okay, well, it's going to be tough for us to be able to find people who are amazing dancers and amazing actors and have great chemistry and have great charisma and Oh, well, let's try. So I put out the word to all these dancers everywhere, and had people come in and audition. I remember we come in and we were casting, and I was in the room, Jen Gibgot was in the room, and Anne, of course, right? And our cast directors, Joanna Colbert. As people were coming in, at the end of the day, everyone's coming in, you see their headshot. They weren't super well-known people because they're dancers, right? You see their headshot, you look on their credits or whatever resume is, and Channing Tatum comes in. And he's good looking, comes in, he's kind of magnetic. He like carries the room. And he was kind of that character, the way that we had sort of like thought of that character. Like, just like right when he walked in the room, like, oh, that's the vibe that we're talking about, right? So we started talking to him, chatting, and he's funny and he's charismatic. He's likable. He's all the things. He's Channing Tatum, right? And we're like, oh, okay, great. Well, okay, let's can we do the sides? Let's go, right? So action, right? He's amazing. Literally, take one, take two, take three. Like, awesome. Like, oh my God.
Wow.
Nailed it, right? Perfect. And we're like, oh my God, because we were like, this is going to be a very hard role to cast, actually. And we were seeing that the trained dancers who had really come in were not quite pulling off that Channing Tatum vibe, okay? Yeah. Channing Tatum pulled off the Channing Tatum vibe, right? And then we go to him and he said, oh my God, you were incredible. That was awesome. Like, so you danced? And he said, yeah. And we're like, okay, like you're like a dancer? And he said, yeah, man. And I said, okay, well, where'd you train? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, where'd you learn how to dance? And he said, like, clubs. And I said, oh, okay. Well, all right. And I said, well, we're having a dance audition this weekend. I mean, you should probably come to that too, But we kind of were like, And we give him the address, go to the weekend. And he basically, you've seen him dance. He's amazing. He's incredible. So we're like, oh my God, we just won the lottery. Like, incredible. And I remember Jamal Sims was our choreographer, who was a really close friend. It's a very tight group. So Jamal and Adam, like, they all were like colleagues, peers, family, like all of this. I was like the interloper, right? Yeah, but I loved it. It was so much fun. And I remember Jamal said, okay, he's a really good dancer. He's got, great kind of like natural instincts. The key thing to see if he can like learn choreography. So they kind of like did a routine, did it immediately. Okay. Then can he do hatography? Okay. Which I was like, what is hatography? And it basically is the art of taking your hat and rolling it across your body in like a cool way. I was like, it doesn't matter, but they're like, yeah, let's try. And he does that. And they're like, all right, he's pretty good. Okay, so we're like, we got our guy.
I was going to ask you, was this a franchise built around Channing Tatum? Because he was so good, it felt like you built it around him.
Well, what happened is the script, honestly, the movie is the script. Okay, so what Melissa wrote, and we did quite a bit more work. Actually, I can tell you how it kind of really changed. I'll tell you more about it. But that story was the story. It was from, and from my first kind of like brainstorm on, the couch watching Footloose, I was like, oh, I want to tell this kind of story from the point of view of this guy who's an outsider in that world. So that was our window into it. And that actually, going back to even our conversation about theater camp, I'm a really big believer in that. Like if you're telling a story that's about any kind of insular world, it's always great to have it from an outsider character in that world. They're your audience proxy, I mean, but it's not like my invention. It's a strong convention, but I definitely wanted to do that. So it was, that character was always like that character. We really lucked out that it was Channing. I'll also tell you, it's funny because I was like, well, what else have you been up to and doing? And he was in in heavy rotation on a Mountain Dew commercial at the time. I was like, oh my God, yeah. You roll he did like a Dukes of Hazzard, like rolling over like the car. I was like, of course. And he was in Coach Carter. There was another movie that he booked that we hadn't seen yet that was going to come out, which was She's Mad.
I mean, my kids are obsessed with that film, by the way.
A classic. It's a classic, but Coach Carter was the one thing that he had done already, right? So I knew David Gale, who was running MTV Films, and I said, tell me about, Channing Tatum. He's in Coach Carter. And I remember him saying, literally, we cast him. The character didn't have a name. He was the white guy. The character's name was the white guy. And we started working with him, and he's so amazing. He's so charismatic that we slowly but surely expanded his character. And he's like a really important character in the movie right now because he's just so good. And we're like, okay, great. Thank you, David. Okay, Channing, you're hired, Yes. So it was very clear that it was something special about that, right? And then for Jenna, it was different because Jenna was like not the opposite, but Jenna was like, she was an amazing dancer. Like that was like, so Channing was like, he came in as an actor, had to prove himself. Can you dance? Jenna, we're like, oh my God, she's a world-class dancer. She's done this, this, and this. Okay, Jenna, let's talk to you about your acting. Okay. And you see her, she's like effortless. She's charismatic. She's likable. She's like amazing. She was everything that was great about that role, Yeah. And also just from the jump, and she was just great. We're like, great, done. So we filmed a chem read between them. We filmed some highlights of other people doing, dance and kind of like dance choreography of the dance auditions too. We had that. We had our script. We had, this is like before like sizzle reels, but we had something about like a clip about all the work that Anne Fletcher had done. And when we sold that movie to international, we sold it at a big profit to $12 million. Okay. Wow. So day one, I was like, all right, yay. Okay, that movie worked, So
you oversold internationally.
Oversold internationally, so we were at profit before we even started production. Then we were moving forward, and at a certain point, there was hesitation about the script from Disney. It felt a little bit too slight. They weren't sure about it. We did a table read. Table read didn't go great. And I was like, oh my God, here it is. Like, we're so close to the promised land. We have this movie that is going to be a home run. We love it. We love this cast. And now they want to go back to development. And I remember that they said, you know what, let's push our start date by a little bit. We still believe in this movie, but we want to do that work to actually get it right. So we did a bigger table read. Hillary, oh my God, I'm totally blanking on who she is. She became a very big writer. She wrote Insomnia, the Chris Nolan movie. Not Hillary Zeitz, maybe Hillary Seitz. Okay, maybe that's her name. Okay. And she said, your issue is that the stakes actually decrease as the movie goes on. They don't increase. And if you think about any great romances, there is some bit of a real stakes right before, the third act. And we started about Romeo and Juliet. And I was an English major. I remember my teacher always used to say, Mercutio must die. And she said, yes. So here's what, Skinny must die. And Skinny was the little kid, if you remember, right? Of course. I was like, oh my God, you're right. Skinny must die. And around the table, everyone said, Skinny must die. Okay. So,
God, like a bit of Shakespeare in there. I didn't even, that's crazy.
Right. That is what we need to do. Right. And so obviously that transformed the whole thing. And I think it kind of changed the whole third act. And we had cruise shirts that we all wore that said Skinny must die. I still have mine. They're right over the chest, because it became like the mantra. And also getting that was the thing that got us to have the script, that got us the official green light, that got us to move forward, right?
That satisfied Disney. They were like, yes, that's exactly.
They're like, yeah, that's right. That works. I had one obsession for me personally that never fully happened, actually, that I still think that however successful the movie is, it would have been even more successful, which is I'm very obsessed over the idea of like seeing a move that is tried out over time that doesn't work, that you see actually come to fruition. You know, sort of the crane move in Karate Kid, the lift in Dirty Dancing. We need to have a signature physical activity that people are tracking, that they're, I mean, by the way, think about Top Gun. How many times do we, the audience, hear about going down into the ravine, the maneuvers that they had to do? So all of us were super educated as an audience. That's what they have to do. And when it really counts, my God, they're going to pull it off. And how satisfying, because you're deeply invested in it. You know, I really, really wanted our lift, you know, our crane move. People resisted it as being corny. Maybe it would have been corny, but I think it would have been really, really helpful.
I like that idea, Eric. I like that very much.
We'll go back. When we redo it, we'll have that. Yeah. So the other thing that was interesting is that they came back to us and they said, we will make the movie. Okay, you are getting green light. We are moving forward and we're going to make it. But we have an issue in terms of our release schedule, and we can't release the movie for, it was a while. It was at least a year, maybe even 18 months, you know, of when the movie was going to be made to when it could come out. And we're like, oh, wow. Because we had all our choreography that we, you know, thought we had our songs, you know, that was designed, you know, for on-camera performances, right? And I was concerned that the songs were going to be stale. If we waited, if the movie was sitting in the can for at least a year, by the time it came out, it wouldn't work. So we went back, we stripped out the songs, and we went and we did just kind of click tracks of raw demos. So we did choreography just to those, and we took those demos and we seeded them out. We kept the movie open before we delivered, you know, for that year. Yeah. And then we went out to different artists and we said, here are the demos. We can show you a clip of the movie. We want you to write songs to the click tracks of what we're looking for. And then what was interesting, actually just going back to like where it came from both the balance between commercial and creative, right? That was the, you know, we wanted that to be right for the consumer, right for the movie and all that. But it also allowed us to actually get publishing rights. So for instance, we were able to get, you know, share publishing rights to the artists. Like we, the movie and the label and all that, we co-owned for Step Up 2, Low, you know, Flow Rider's Low, that was written as a demo by the unsigned artist for Step Up 2, you know. Those were just kind of like, again, some of that, like, I have so much like fond memories and so much like love in my heart for that franchise. But because of like odd little things like that, okay, this is a challenge. How do we survive it? Okay, wait, actually, that ended up being amazing, you know, of how it worked out. So made the movie, made it in Baltimore. And honestly, it was great. I mean, there were so many working with other producers, you know, and Offspring. It was their, I think, first movie as a production company, if I'm not mistaken. It was obviously Anne Fletcher's first movie. It was Channing's first movie. For me, also, personally, it was my first movie that we were Summit, that we were financing, that we were really on the hooks. And also, I felt very invested because it was my emotional baby, is also my financial baby. And because I had like stewardship to my other partners, you know, so it's really important to me. And I will say, actually, I also, and Adam and Shankman and I, we stay in touch all the time. I learned a lot as a producer in terms of how to work well with others, how to manage but not micromanage. Because I probably was a micromanager at first, and I think over that time, and by the way, I'm still a micromanager, but I tried to be at least aware of it during the course of it, you know.
So I want to hear more about like the creative team. And Anne Fletcher was new, and now she's like directed so many great films. We did a proposal episode with Todd Lieberman, and we did 27 Dresses, and you know, she became sort of an iconic director. Was she sure-footed like from moment one?
Well, she basically, because she had been, her niche was not even, once upon a time she had been a Laker girl. I mean, you know, she had been a Laker girl with Paula Abdul. And then she, you know, she was a dancer always, and then she became a choreographer. But her specific niche, and the reason why I really, really felt comfortable hiring her, even though she wasn't like, I'm a director, hire me. Her specific niche was she was a choreographer within movies and TV shows. Not within, but for movies and TV shows. So she worked with actors all the time. And she had just done the, you know, incredibly iconic Steve Carell coda at the end of 40-Year-Old Virgin to Age of Aquarius. So that was hers. And I remember talking to her saying, how do you work with actors? How do you work with directors? How do you work? And also she's so comfortable around crews, you know? So that kind of sensibility of like sometimes, and I've worked with a lot of first-time directors and I really love it, but sometimes you can see that you can feel, and I remember a lot of times working with the first-time director, like as we go to set the first time, or we go for a location scout the first time, or we have the first production meeting, I'll sometimes say to them, it's like, I don't know if you ride horses at all, but like a horse can sense fear, right? And they don't want a rider who is afraid. They want a rider who knows what they're doing or projects some level of confidence. A crew is that horse. You know, you need to project a level of confidence. If you project a level of fear and anxiety, the crew will pick that up as like one horse-like being, and they're going to buck. And I strongly believe that. I mean, I don't know if you've had that same experience.
No, completely. It's like you have to project confidence, fake it till you make it, even if you don't have it, you know?
Anne was like, got it. You know, by the way, she didn't even kind of need that speech, you know, because she knew the crew. She knows crews. She knows that whole like vibe and experience. She is a funny, goofy, kind of like creative who can speak to the actors in that same way, you know? So she was great. There were moments where I sometimes like would joke where she almost had like the book of how to direct for dummies, you know, where you could see that she like Adam had given her some notes, or she had taken like some notes from like a different movie or a scene that she had like printed out of something that she was interested in, which by the way is great. Like I would see her, I remember actually, it's a very small scene, Channing sweeping the steps at MSA at some point later on in the movie. It's like after a low moment or whatever. And I remember watching her prep for that. And I was like, God, you really have really sort of planned this out and thought about this. And I don't mean to say this in a like obnoxious way, but I'm like really so proud of how you are like, you're a director. Like you are a director.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, you know, thanks for that. And she kind of thought I was, I mean, sarcastic. I was like, no, we just really, because you had seen, it was like the arc of like just even how she had grown from, you know, from the beginning and pre-production development through that moment where it was getting ready for a scene, blocking how she was where she was gonna move the camera. She just put the work in. She was incredible. She was great. Oh my God. The one other side, I remember being just as a dumb, like other side, we had our DP was Michael Saracen, who is, you know, world famous DP who shot Fame. And his son, Ben Saracen, is a huge DP. And we were trying to reach out to him. And Patrick Waxberger was like, oh, I know him, or I can get to him. And he was, I think, living in Australia or New Zealand at the time. But we reached out to him. Would you ever think about it? It's a small, you know, movie, you know, and he's like, yeah, I'll do it, you know, and he signed up for it. Okay. When he was going to do it, he wanted to bring his crew, you know, his camera operator, right, from Australia or New Zealand. So again, I think it must have been Australia. And we couldn't get a visa for the camera operator. And he really, really wanted it. As we were sitting there in the production office in Maryland, and like, what are we going to do? And well, that's a problem. And should we look at alt and what can we do? And someone said, well, I guess maybe we can try and appeal to like, you know, a local, like, you know, state senator and see if they can help expedite his visa or anything we can do. Working as my assistant at the time was Molly Smith. Okay. You know, the financier producer, right? And that was, she was just starting out and she was kind of like shadowing production and learning. And she was our on-set assistant. And she said, like from the back of the room, she's like, excuse me, do you think that a federal center, like a U.S. center would be just as good as a local, like state center? Or like, yeah, I mean, do you know one? And she said, let me see. And I don't think people quite realize, like, you know, how connected she and her family are, you know? And she basically called John McCain, like literally right there, got John McCain on the phone and said, here's the situation. Can you help me expedite a visa? And he was like, sure, of course. And within 24 hours, the guy had a visa.
That is so genius. I love that.
Este es el mejor momento de ahorrar en Verizon, porque puedes llevarte hasta 4 teléfonos nuevos ahora en nuestros planes más bajos. Es muy fácil. Imagínate todo lo que vas a poder hacer con un teléfono nuevo. Dile chao a las fotos borrosas. Vas a poder tomarte unas selfies increíbles y vas a poder hablar con tus primos sin que se muera la batería después de 5 minutos. Este es tu momento de ahorrar. Visita tu tienda Verizon y llévate hasta 4 teléfonos 5G. Sí, 4 teléfonos, ahora en nuestros planes más bajos. Al intercambiar teléfonos de Apple, Samsung o Google en cualquier condición. Solo en Verizon.
Long gone are the days of waiting to be seen in a doctor's office only to have that awkward conversation with your healthcare provider. Wisp gives you access to sexual and reproductive healthcare from the comfort of your home. Get treatment for BV, yeast infections, UTIs, and much more delivered directly to your home or ready for pickup at your local pharmacy in less than 3 hours. The best part? Wisp is discreet, convenient, and you don't need medical insurance to receive care or prescription medication. Visit us today at hellowisp.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
You getting down with your Irish roots now?
It's not like
It's
that.
not like what?
It's part of my community service, man.
Dancing. How is dancing a part of your community service, Ty?
Look, it's complicated.
Well, explain to me, brother, because I ain't that stupid.
We haven't done a film yet with Channing as the lead. I'm curious about him because he is so charismatic. He does this thing as an actor, I find, that is like a little bit bumbling, and it's a little bit of his brand. Is that a performance or is that really the way he presents? Because he's become such a powerful person in our industry. And I'm always curious about these guys who lead with such charisma and they're so attractive. And, it's like the Brad Pitt effect,
Yeah. Honestly, I think he just is like, I just literally remember that moment of him walking into the casting room because he walked in with I had zero preconceived notion. He just was a guy and he kind of commanded attention and he's cool. He just is cool, why are some people cool and some people aren't? I don't know. He's cool, and he's also laid back, and it's interesting. I feel like it sounds like woo woo if you sort of say it, but he's present in the moment. He connects with you. He's chill. He's, a good hang. So those things are kind of what make him like, if he wasn't an actor, you would kind of want him to be your friend, He's kind of a cool guy.
Yes.
So I think that kind of laid back, kind of chill, like not trying hard kind of vibe is magic power, So I think that when you have seen roles where he's really connected great with them, he's channeling that. I think that's in Step Up. I think it's in Magic Mike. I think it's in 21 Jump Street. I think it's like, even I haven't seen it, but the movie that Zoe Kravitz just made, the trailer, Blink Twice,
Whatever it's called now,
Blink Twice. And you see him come on and he's like, whatever, I don't know, some tech billionaire or whatever, right? Charismatic, charming. I'm like, that tracks.
The thing that I really notice is that the actors who are able just to bring their own essence and be really comfortable with their own essence and communicate that onto in an audition and on the screen are the ones that really have become our biggest stars. And he totally does that in spades. It's so clear that he's just so comfortable in his own skin and his physicality.
Right.
I want to talk about Jenna a little bit just because she was, I think I just watched the movie again last night and the reason it was so enjoyable is because there was such an authenticity to those performances. Like I literally was living for the moments where they actually performed and you could see that it was Channing and you could see it was Jenna and it seemed that they did every single shot themselves. There weren't doubles.
No doubles at all. I guess on maybe a stunt sequence, I'm sure we doubled someone, but and also I don't mean to give short shrift to Jenna because she was incredible. She was so effervescent. She was so likable on screen, and she had so much also natural charisma and magnetism, and all of her authenticity of dance and what she brought to it were just incredible. And they had a great chemistry between the two of them. Obviously, they got married, and had a child or two, And I also remember there was one moment where, they both were so responsible. They were incredible. They were, there until wrap and, way before crew call and were there all the time and took it so seriously in a great way. One time Channing was on and she was not working that day. It was his call And we're like, he's not there. And we're like, oh, it's the first time he was late. And we're like, well, where's Channing? And people were, oh, we're trying to call him. We're trying to track him down. And then it was like, not even that long. It was like 20 minutes. We're like, God, he's never been late. Not one minute. How could that be? Like, where could he be? And then someone said, let's check Jenna. And then we did. And he was like, oh my God, man, sorry. And we're like, okay, got it. Anyway, but that is like, well, they have chemistry.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I saw a chemistry read somehow is like on the internet recently, like, they were dancing and it was like a chemistry read between the two of them. And it was just like, so obvious and palpable. And that's part of the reason I think the movie works so well, because it's like that chemistry is so real. And by the way, just for her part, she's meant to be the more articulate of the two. And so she actually has to carry a lot of the dialogue in those scenes. And I thought she did like a lovely job also.
She's incredible. She's great.
But just in terms of shooting the dance sequences, like I always love, for these specific movies, every movie has the thing that they've got to achieve in the amount of time they have to do it. And to me, the dance sequences were so highly choreographed with so many people. Like, how did you get that done? Do you remember getting those shots done? How long did they take?
I don't remember the details of like our schedule, but I mean, you did that dance between, okay, so Jamal Sims, who I actually also just worked with now recently on Grease Rise of the Pink Ladies, a TV show that we did,
Cool.
He's incredible. He has remained one of the top, 5, 10, choreographers in the business, in the world. And that was, I think, one of his first movies as like lead choreographer. All of them, it's a relatively small network, of people, in that field. And it was so great to like be able to feature dance in this, So I don't remember. In fact, I probably have like, clips of us, trying things out. I mean, but it wasn't for me to design the dance sequences. It's, that's Anne and Jamal. And,
Sure.
I was like, the happy bystander, like, wow, that's incredible. How do you do that? And I remember I wanted to, I'm also in a behind the scenes thing, because that was also our first movie that I was like really into. I wanted to kind of like create content. That was my like big idea, Warner Beat was running marketing at the time. And I was trying to get his support for the movie, and get a guy named Jack Pan who worked for him, who was running like social media marketing or whatever. I didn't even call it that, whatever they were calling it.
Yeah.
MySpace had just come out at that point. And I was like, this is going to be a huge thing, and we can use MySpace and we can use the internet and we can really do this. And I have a great idea. Why don't we do a contest, and we can see if people want to either be in the movie or, they can be a backup dancer, or they can come to the premiere. And he was like, I remember Oren was very, very skeptical, and Jack Pan was a huge supporter. In fact, once we launched some in the studio, we stole him, and he created all of our social media campaigns for Twilight, and he was amazing, Jack. But we did a MySpace contest with Ciara, who we had one of her songs in the movie, and then we did this whole bit. It was one of the first big kind of like social media kind of promotions, because
yeah.
Like, oh, it's teenagers, they like the internet, this thing called MySpace, But one of the things, so the movie was called Untitled Music High the entire shoot, which is why people wore Skinny Must Die t-shirts, because like it wasn't called Step Up. The t-shirts said Skinny Must Die on the chest and on the back, because we would always tell Anne, no, you can't do that. We don't have the budget, like the usual refrain of a producer, to the director, right? And so on the front it said Skinny Must Die, and on the back it said Champagne Dreams, Budweiser Budget. And because that was also kind of the mantra of the film. And,
who came up with that? That is so good.
Anne Fletcher, yeah. And then as time went on, we worked with Disney to try and come up with the title, and I forgot where the title of Step Up came from, because it was kind of like a bunch of us throwing a bunch of titles. So maybe we're like, oh yeah, that's good. It's positive, it's this, whatever. But I do remember very clearly two things. One is that they had their own burgeoning, untitled music high school thing that they were doing on the TV side for the Disney Channel. And they said, you know what? We're going to repurpose this title and just call it High School Musical.
No way.
We were like, oh, okay, And so having everybody, okay. And a guy named Jim Gallagher, who worked in the advertising department, he said, why don't we just do, and he wrote out on a piece of paper, Step Up, with his handwriting, okay? And we're like, oh, that looks kind of cool. That looks like that. It's just like someone wrote that on a wall. Like that's kind of the idea that we want.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll use this title. We'll use this treatment. Okay, and that became our thing. And that's the title that you see on the main poster. You know,
Totally.
Jim just wrote it, Step Up, and then we said, great, let's just use that.
Este es el mejor momento de ahorrar en Verizon, porque puedes llevarte hasta 4 teléfonos nuevos ahora en nuestros planes más bajos. Es muy fácil. Imagínate todo lo que vas a poder hacer con un teléfono nuevo. Dile chao a las fotos borrosas. Vas a poder tomarte unas selfies increíbles y vas a poder hablar con tus primos sin que se muera la batería después de 5 minutos. Este es tu momento de ahorrar. Visita tu tienda Verizon y llévate hasta 4 teléfonos 5G. Sí, 4 teléfonos, ahora en nuestros planes más bajos. Al intercambiar teléfonos de Apple, Samsung o Google en cualquier condición. Solo en Verizon.
Long gone are the days of waiting to be seen in a doctor's office only to have that awkward conversation with your healthcare provider. Wisp gives you access to sexual and reproductive healthcare from the comfort of your home. Get treatment for BV, yeast infections, UTIs, and much more delivered directly to your home or ready for pickup at your local pharmacy in less than 3 hours. The best part? Wisp is discreet, convenient, and you don't need medical insurance to receive care or prescription medication. Visit us today at hellowisp.com.
The film was already in profits before you guys were shooting because you guys had sold it so well internationally. But when did you describe the release of the film? Like, was it an immediate smash? Like, just describe the early days of the first Step Up coming out.
It was. Because it was our first movie that we kind of had on the big level, financing skin in the game that we were producing. We at Summit. We rented a limo, and we went around with a handful of us and our
I love it. Yeah.
Went around to multiple theaters to see a play, And I remember being at the Grove, and we went into a theater, and people were screaming. They were really excited to see it. And we had just gotten the first bit of grosses of that day, so it was Friday, late afternoon or whatever. And that the numbers were actually really good. And then we're going to be at the higher end of where we wanted. Because again, there were a lot of people who were sort of haters of the movie, bizarrely, at Disney, and it exceeded. It worked great. It worked great.
It wasn't a homegrown Disney movie was that why they were?
I think it was kind of it didn't have stars, for them. It was they only owned domestic. They didn't care about, they didn't have the world. It was a low budget thing. They didn't pay that much money for it. Didn't have not a lot of skin, emotional skin in the game, so they didn't really care that much about it. And also there had been, there was a regime change, Nina got, kind of pushed out, Oren came in, and no one was really kind of wanting it to do amazing, but it did really well. I'm trying to remember actually what it opened to on that weekend. I could look it up, but it did well. I remember it was going to do great. And I was like, oh my God, now we're going to do a sequel. And no, we don't want it. I was like, what are you talking about? I have a great idea for Zena. And they said, the most that we would do is a straight to DVD sequel at the time, and for $5 million. So we'll work with that. So we commissioned the script, and I had seen a short that John Chu had directed called "When the Dads Are Away" or something, which is great short. He was developing Bye Bye Birdie, and I remember saying, you've been developing Bye Bye Birdie for Sony for now 2 years, and it's not getting made. Why don't you just direct a straight-to-DVD movie? You can show people what you can do. And then by the time you're done with that, you'll have that instead of the short to show people. I'm sure you're going to get a theatrical movie after that. And he was like, all right, I'll do it. He really didn't want to because he wanted to do it straight.
That's unbelievable.
And then he had the rain sequence from Step Up 2. That was in his boards. That was he had a shot listed of what he was going to do. He had all these images. It was his idea. This is what he wants to do for Step Up 2. We were like, oh my God, how are we going to do this for $5 million? We can't. It's impossible. And I was sitting there with Jen Givgott, and she's like, we have to get this. We have to get Disney to see what this guy's vision is. And I was like, they don't care. Oh my God, it's such a bummer. We've tried, we've talked, and they don't care. And we just got to get this. And we went in, we saw Orna Veed, and we said, look at this vision, look at this. And we showed the rain sequence. And there was a change in the release schedule. And he said, if you can deliver this movie for me so that I can release it for Valentine's Day of whatever it was, I will give you theatrical green light, but it has to be ready. And we were like, okay, we'll do it. And it was just there's no way in hell we could do it, but we said yes, obviously. And that was it.
Oh my God. Why did you stick with Disney?
We had to, because we weren't yet fully funded Summit, and Disney had sequel rights, and they had agreed that they were going to do it as a DVD movie. So for 5, and then they, no pun intended, stepped up to be theatrical. So Step Up 2, then that movie actually did well domestically, but not even quite as well, because Channing was also in it for only a small role for the beginning.
Yeah.
But it did really, really well internationally. So now it became an international franchise. And then at that point, Summit was a studio. So he said, we want to do Step Up 3. We have an obligation come to you. You guys want to do it? And they said, no, we don't. And we're like, great, we'll do it. And then we did Step Up 3, 4, and 5.
Unbelievable. We did a Wicked episode that'll come out, and just to see John Chu's trajectory, like you like really saw it in him. I feel like that's one of your superpowers, like identifying talent and giving them the chutzpah.
He's idiot proof. Like you, basically, he is amazing. I've worked with him now. He did 2, he did Step Up 3D, we did Now You See Me 2 together. He's great.
So amazing. Okay. That was such a great, and you're such a good storyteller, Eric, that you really, I literally didn't need to ask you any questions because you told me the whole story. All of it.
I don't shut up. Sorry.
Eric, thank you so much for doing this with me. I loved it so much. I will come back to you again. As you know, you're such a great storyteller, and what an amazing accomplishment. The franchise that sprang from your head when your baby was born. I love that.
All right, see you. Bye.
Okay, bye, man.
Este es el mejor momento de ahorrar en Verizon, porque puedes llevarte hasta 4 teléfonos nuevos ahora en nuestros planes más bajos. Es muy fácil. Imagínate todo lo que vas a poder hacer con un teléfono nuevo. Dile chao a las fotos borrosas. Vas a poder tomarte unas selfies increíbles y vas a poder hablar con tus primos sin que se muera la batería después de 5 minutos. Este es tu momento de ahorrar. Visita tu tienda Verizon y llévate hasta 4 teléfonos 5G. Sí, 4 teléfonos, ahora en nuestros planes más bajos. Al intercambiar teléfonos de Apple, Samsung o Google en cualquier condición. Solo en Verizon.
To get people excited about Boost Mobile's new nationwide 5G network, we're offering unlimited talk, text, and data for $25 a month.
Forever.
Even if you have a baby.
Even if your baby has a baby.
Even if you grow old and wrinkly and you start repeating yourself.
Even if you start repeating yourself.
Even if you're on your deathbed and you need to make one last call.
Or text.
Right, or text. The long-lost son you abandoned at birth.
You'll still get unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month with Boost Mobile.
Forever! After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan.
Forever. Hi, this is Freddie Wong from Dungeons and Daddies, and this episode is sponsored by Rocket Money.
Houston.
Blast off. Houston, we have a problem, and that's too many subscriptions that I don't know about because I like to put my credit card number into sites.
Just for the sheer thrill of it.
That's the fundamental problem of the internet and money, and Rocket Money is here to solve that. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. You can see all those subscriptions that you've accrued over a lifetime of putting your credit card in on the internet in one place. And if you don't want them, just cancel them. With a few taps, Rocket Money can help with that. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/cancel subs. That's rocketmoney.com/cancel subs, not submarines.
So you know what that means, right?
Nah, what's that mean?
You're gonna have to get some tights.
Done.
Vanessa, that was so fun. I love interviewing Eric Feig because he is one of those producers who is equal parts creative, but also a proper businessman and understands the language of the industry. And, ran a studio for a very long time at Summit. And so really understands the dollars and cents of film, which, not every creative producer does.
Yeah.
I think sometimes producers get so wrapped up in creating the art of it and getting the film in the can that they don't really understand the other side of it. And so it was kind of a joy to hear his business mind at work while he was creating this really creative and inventive franchise.
It felt a little bit like he pulled it together the way that an algorithm might spit out, like, this is the kind of movie we need in the world. But then he did it. No, but it honestly came together in a way where he was like, okay, he approached Adam Shankman at a gym and was like, who's the best choreographer that you think could be a director? That's such a creative choice. It's not like he went through the list of studio directors, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's like discovering Channing Tatum. They didn't go with a star. They went with Jenna Dewan, who's also just a dancer. So honestly, a lot of those choices to me, there are some names in the movie, but it's ultimately feels very organic to the actual story. So it's like the inception of it was kind of based on what he thought would work, but then he pulled it off in a way that felt sincere and makes the movie feel a little authentic.
100%. I would say like sincere is like a word that I do feel describes his process in this, and really, coming at it from probably a bit of a business perspective and financial perspective, but really then leaning into the creative partners that he had. And by the way, he came up with the story. I mean, that is a really, really inventive and creative part of him that exists, right? And so I was so deeply impressed by that. But then leaning into Anne Fletcher and really, having such confidence in her, she became one of the great directors of the aughts. She's responsible for so many of the great romantic comedies that we know and love. And so I was so impressed. And, the other thing that I was thinking when I was listening to his process was like, there is real value in living in the company town that you work in. And you live in LA now, but I am truly in New York, which is like a bit of an island. And the fact that Eric was just going around to meetings and having conversations about this thing that he had in development, and then went to the gym and ran into Adam Shankman and then ran into Nina Jacobson at the Whole Food and pitched her this little thing. And she was running Disney at the time. Like, all these things feel possible when you live in the town and are sort of focused, and I lament that a little bit living on the East Coast, because we don't have as much of that. It has to be way more intentional. And so I was sort of reminded of the like small town nature of LA, or that you can run into people at the gym.
No, it's been for the listeners that don't know, I moved to LA about a year ago, and it was a real culture shock coming to LA, because it does feel like this small village where everywhere you go, you're running into people, and the work, and for better or for worse, becomes part of your social life. And it's, it is like you go to the grocery store, you run into someone, you're like, oh my God, I forgot to send you that spec that I'm working on and whatever.
100%.
And things can really come from those conversations, which one of the projects we're working on, I met the writer in a parking lot.
Right. Totally.
You never know. It's just crazy. So there is something kind of magical to that, and it clearly can work, which is really cool.
Anyways, that was so fun.
He was great. He's always great. We got to bring him back again to do Twilight potentially.
Oh my God, right? Such a good idea.
Yeah.
And I bet he would do it.
Totally. I mean, what a wild story.
I know. All right, dude. Well, you do the wrap up.
Follow us on Instagram at Hollywood Gold Pod. Like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. We're everywhere.
Vanessa, our Instagram's really growing. It's like getting several followers a day.
It is. I think it's because we collaborated with Honora.
We really had a hit of that one. Yeah.
We had a hit.
People loved it.
It's great.
It is such a good episode. It's really so good.
Such a good episode. But yeah, follow us on Instagram, because you're missing out on some really good clips from the show and episodes you might have missed out on. And get our merch at staygoldfeatures.com. Hit the merch tab. We got some good sweatshirts and t-shirts. Right. They're really comfy. They're well designed. And
don't forget, guys.
Stay gold, everyone.
Stay gold.